Hello there, all you beautiful rascals at home, aka shippers or crewmates. Welcome to the Ship Podcast. My name is The Click, and I'm sitting here with one topic at a time. Ooh, whoa, say hi to the lovely squad fam at home on topic.
Remember when we were going to set out a community post and say, hey, you can choose if you want to be shippers or crewmates, and then we'll call that you from now forward. And then we didn't set one up.
No, we're still like saying both of them in each episode. Like, hey, crewmates, aka shippers, aka whatever. We're so indecisive. We're hopeless. We should probably send one out and do the same thing with the name of the podcast. Pick the option with the least number of votes. Mm-hmm. But then maybe we do it the other way around, just to double troll.
Yes, like Game of Thrones. Like, who do you want to survive? And it's like, oh. And now the person you
jokes
didn't
on you,
want
they
to
all
survive.
died.
Even the show died. Oh,
Yay, that's
topical humor. Yay.
Woohoo, that's funny.
Did you watch that final season?
No, I haven't watched any season.
Oh, good. There's probably like
I heard,
two or three main elements I did enjoy, and everything else was garbage.
I heard a lot of people were disappointed with the ending of the last season.
They rushed it. And I think they cut out a lot of important things that could have informed the character arcs that they had. I saw someone, I think it might have been Elvis the Alien, who did a really good cut of how they should have ended the last season there, and even use the same number of episodes to do it. Just mix up the order of which scenes came when to help inform the different decisions the characters made. And I was like, wow, this is really good. I'm surprised how much sense this makes now. But the way that it was presented in the show does not. Especially, they had characters forget their own names.
Oh, well, that's kind of nifty.
Instead of use the correct last name, use a different last name for themselves and be like, oh no, I'm not this last name anymore. I'm actually this last name. It's like, wait, what? You were never that last name. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so Game of Thrones So Game of Thrones is a dead series. And speaking of dead things,
yeah, they had a lot of zombies in there too, the White Walkers and stuff. Oh, we're doing zombies today.
You ruined my transition, but you kind of saved it in one way, I guess. Thank you.
My own transition.
Okay, so I was gonna say, since it's a dead series, today we're gonna talk about other dead stuff, which is Zombie Apocalypse Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Woo!
Hooray! All right, Click, I ruined your transition. What are we talking about today? You set us up.
Okay. Transition number 4. It's zombie. So in a previous episode, we talked about zombie day 0, like the actual outbreak of the virus, how likely you are to get infected, how different ways the virus can spread, and so on and so forth. So now we're at day 1. The outbreak has happened. People have turned into zombies. And you somehow, despite you being a little piggy, managed not to get infected. So
Little piggy?
Yeah, piggy, like dirty. They roll in their own, like, young mud.
That's so rude. These poor folks. Oh, they just came to a podcast to listen to us talk, and we're shaming them. All right,
yes,
day 1,
welcome
they're
to,
piggies.
Welcome
I
to
get
the
it.
Ship
I'm
Piggy
on track.
Podcast.
Hosted by two other piggies.
So now imagine us all listening to this podcast. We're all sitting in like a war room at home in someone's apartment. We managed to escape the first infection, and some of us may be panicking. Some of us may be more level-headed, which is totally not me. And we're going to plan how to survive the very first day of the outbreak. Where are we supposed to go? How do we survive other humans that might be aggressive? Do we group up? Do we stay alone? What's our strat, fam? So that's the topic for today.
This actually came up in my first date with Human One. We spent maybe 5 hours just walking around. We met up for dinner. We had dinner, and then we watched a movie, and then we went walking around until the wee hours of the morning. It was like 2 a.m. or something when we finally split up. But we're talking a lot about D&D, and then we switched over to zombies, and we talked about different strategies for survival and what would be good, what would not be good to do. And one of the things that came up was, I think, a popular opinion, where a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just go to X name of store and get supplies, and then I think I'll be good. Or I'll hole up in this store, and that'll be fine. The example that was given was Costco. And I talked about it, and I said, well, how many people do you think work the cash registers there? and let's say maybe they have 20 lanes open, so we have 20 cashiers that
and then at least as many people
shifts.
working behind the scenes, basically stocking and that kind of stuff.
And then so we've got a built-in number of people that probably think this is a good idea already. So let's say there's 20 cashiers on at any given time, let alone all the other people that are off shift that need to rotate in. But let's say 20.
And those people already have access as well. They already have keys and all that stuff to the place.
That is a good point. I'm thinking purely numbers basis, but that is a good point. So let's say the 20 people see about 100 customers a day each. I think that's very reasonable to say.
Yeah, I think so.
Then that's 100 times 20, and then that's every day ever, and that's only for counting people as unique customers. Let's say we cap it off at a month. We still have the potential for thousands of people that think it would be a great idea to go hole up there. And so immediately, like, that thought should be shot. It's overrun. You should already have your supplies ready to go, rather than trying to go to a place that has supplies. You will get the hooped.
Oh yeah, it's like you said, every store, if you just look around you in your own neighborhood, every store covers X amount of households. So it's probably 1,000 people per store at least.
Minimum, and that's for small stores, yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, the chances that you will be the only one riding there and planning to lock it down, it's like, nah, fam, you're gonna have to fight hundreds of people to lock that stuff down. But even though, considering that a lot of these people actually, they turn into zombies, so they're not planning to actually lock it down. Let's say 1% of the population actually survives the initial outbreak. That still means that you probably have at least a dozen people that all have the same idea about going to the store. And some of these people may even be a part of, larger groups. So I don't know, fam. I would not put myself up against like 24 people who are desperate and potentially armed to lock down a store because I planned poorly.
1% of all people in Sweden survive, so that's two dozen.
That's like 100 people.
I agree. I wouldn't want to face off against, as your example, 24 people. Say if you have supplies and they don't, and the zombies that you have to contend with as well. Because realistically, how much can you carry with you? It's whatever you can pack on your back, maybe fit in your pockets, and that's about it. Unless you have a vehicle, and how far can a vehicle go if the roads are blocked? How far can the supplies in your household go? And I think a lot of people either focus on like the romanticized escape from the city as fast as possible, hit things with bats, or they romanticize the bunker aspect, where they're like, all right, we're going to hide out in an underground bunker for X amount of time, and then we'll survive. It'll be totally fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, food runs out. That's the big pickle.
Mm-hmm. Like, of your supplies right now at your house, how long could you survive?
I think, actually, I just ordered home. I just got it home. It's like these powder-based meals. It's not, to replace actual food, but it's kind of like this vegan meals that you mix with water and kind of turns into kind of a milkshake, but more of a food thing. So with those considered, I probably have food at home to last like a good 2 or 3 weeks. Although if the water stops running, that's going to be the big problem. Then you're going to have to gather rainwater or something like that. But only considering food, I probably have food for like 3 weeks or something at home if I need to push it.
Yeah, for the hierarchy of needs, water is pretty high on that list.
Water is very high.
But
should always keep a bathtub full of water in case the zombie outbreak happens, fam.
And that is an excellent point. Not only is the bathtub a good place, you can also rely on the cistern of your toilet. You don't want to flush the toilet, fam. That's out the window. Literally, if you have a bucket.
Oh yeah, that's true, because it's clean water up there. So you have like 20 liters of water or something. That's pretty nifty.
Pretty good, right? And then also, if you have a fish tank, you're gonna have to get rid of your fish immediately if they're like little guppies, and just fill that thing with fresh water.
Eat it. Eat the fish.
Eat it. Fine. Day one snack.
Yeah. All right.
So, but how many days could you survive with the food that you've got? And water.
Considering the wet weather in Sweden is kind of crappy, so I'm assuming I can gather a decent amount of rainwater. I would say I can probably survive for, let's say, 3 weeks. I would say that's reasonable.
Really impressive.
Yeah, but that's me on one person though. If I bunker down with a friend or my partner, it will be, the time will be
Oh
cut
yeah,
in
you're
half
dating someone,
for-
aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's like an official relationship now, fam. So, you even spoke to her. I called you up one time when I was at her place.
I know you're
and
just
she-
like, well, if I happen to be hanging out with a friend, or my girlfriend.
really
Yeah,
smooth.
who am
She
I gonna
likes you,
survive
though.
with? I don't know.
She's like, you need to keep contact with him because he keeps you relatively wholesome. So if you cut ties with him, I'm gonna whoop your ass. It's like, whoa.
I'm your anchor to reality for sure.
Yeah, something like that. It's kind of we're kind of the two-faced coin.
So we've already got our supplies. I think we're good for at least a little while, and
Yes.
we're
We're at least
assuming
good for
that-
like an escape.
Let's assume a set of zombie rules right now, because it's a little bit difficult to plan for anything if we're not in agreement about how the dead work. So
Yeah.
are these literally the fantastical? These dudes are dead and will walk around forever, or is it like they are infected and very aggressive?
I would say it's two very different scenarios. They're either slow and half dead and very fatigued, or they're super aggressive. But if we're going to be realistic about it, both of those categories come with pros and cons. For example, if they are infected and super aggressive, they will probably also starve because that would imply a higher metabolism.
Exactly.
But if they're walking dead, they can last for much longer, but they're also slower. So the main threat in that case would be like hordes or getting pretty much well sieged. So it depends. Which do you want to go for? Which category?
Well, now that you've explained it so succinctly there, I think it might be good to discuss both. But
All right.
let's go
start with the slow ones then, the
Sure.
undead ones that last longer, but they're also slower and less dangerous in person, so to say.
Okay, so how would you avoid those by staying home? Like, do you live in a house? Do you live in an apartment? You high off the ground? You underground?
Yeah, I live on the third floor in a
Okay.
like apartment. It's not an apartment complex. It's more of a building that's cut in half. So every apartment is one floor basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a relatively good place if you can lock down the stairs and stuff because every entrance to the place is above ground, and that's a big deal. And it's outside of the city. It's not like super central, so
Okay.
you wouldn't have those massive hordes around. Although there are quite a few people living around, so it's definitely not like out on the countryside. So I would say low to moderate number of zombies around and elevated off the ground, with potential for barricading, I would say. So
Okay.
pretty decent location.
Where I'm at, it's mostly residential. It's many blocks of just houses. There aren't many stores around here or anything. So it's like small families and stuff. So there would be a good chance of a lot of zombies running around, but it's not quite like city center dense. So I don't think I'd get hoarded, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I'm also
like a moderate amount.
I think I've talked about it before. I live in like a basement, like a lower level of a house. It's pretty low risk for entry points. So I think like if I just sat quiet, I'd probably be fine. I think
Now you're looking around like, how much noise am I actually making?
not a
Get
lot.
those isolation pads up.
And I do have to set those up. I'm actually going to be transitioning everything to a separate room right now. It's like a very small storage room. So we're moving all the boxes around and seeing where I can put a desk in there and stuff, and making sure I still get good reception for the Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's good. That's perfect. That's
yeah.
much easier to get good acoustics with smaller spaces. So that's excellent.
And so I can game and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
So I think if I had enough, I'd probably be okay in the slow scenario. Because at least I'd see them coming. I would be able to get out in different directions if I needed to. But the ideal would be setting up camp for a little while and kind of waiting out and seeing where things are at. Because one of the riskiest things you can do is be like, I want to get out of Dodge. I want to get out of town as quick as possible. Because everyone is doing that. Everyone wants to get away from the potential risk and threat as fast as possible. And there's pros and
especially
cons.
in that scenario, we can also consider a few factors about it. For example, the roads will most likely be blocked because during the initial outbreak, people probably hopped in cars, the infection happened, everything stopped. So you probably can't
During
take
regular
a car out of
driving,
town.
people are having accidents, but during a threat, they will absolutely be bumping into each other, crashing. And it only takes
Yes.
like one person to shut down a road.
Yeah, pretty much. One crash in the middle, and then there's tons of cars from each side, so they can't even move the damaged car. And then everybody abandons their cars because they're panicking, and there you go. The whole thing is shut down. Yeah. So let's assume that basically the only way to get around town is walking, maybe like riding a bike, maybe in certain areas. But let's say walking for the sake of it. So you would be, if you want to get out of town, you have to have a relatively big, heavy backpack with all your supplies that you need for the road. So you're going to move relatively slow. And you have to walk on foot all the way. So how long is it for you to get out to the countryside, let's say, or into the woods, somewhere there that would have a very low amount of zombies?
15 minutes?
15 minutes by foot.
Reasonable day, I think. Oh, on foot. Okay, sorry. It depends which one I can get to, but I mean, there's a couple different parks and forest things around that lead out to larger forests. Like it's all national parks and whatnot. So maybe on foot, probably 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, if you can avoid the bigger hordes, you can definitely make it relatively easy.
I think so. One of the main things is I'm very near an ocean. So I can, as many people would say, well, I'm going to go down there and I'm just going to like steal a boat and I'll be fine. Completely forgetting that people own those boats and also many other people know that boats exist.
Yep. Yeah, that's one really important thing to remember. Whatever solution you have, you will not be the only one with that idea. The same thing if you go to the local harbor, everybody's going to go to the local harbor. If you go to your local store to try to bunker down, everybody's going to go to the local store to bunker down, or at least, ravage it. So... but yeah,
if I follow the coastline down, like if I had a little floaty device, which I do, I have a few different floaty devices. One I can throw my bag in, which I have done when I've gone down rivers for camping and whatnot, and then I can be in another paddling. I even have a third. I have 3 floaty boats, so I could even grab Human 1 and throw her in one, and then
I could go imagine just grabbing her over her shoulder, like with one arm, like come on.
Literally did that last night.
Nice.
So we could go down the coastline. That would take us right into a national park. And then I think we'd be relatively okay there. It's very quiet, very peaceful. And as many people that would probably go camping, it's not as many people that would just want to like escape to the country, which is further inland.
I think there are a few. I was actually thinking about going into the archipelago if an outbreak happens, find an island. The only problem out on an island is, of course, food supply. Because your initial stash, let's say that in a backpack traveling by foot and finding a boat, you can fit like maybe a month's supply per person in a big backpack.
Ooh, but not water. Maybe food.
Yeah.
Dehydrated
but
food
let's say we can bring a little bit of water and the rest, we can gather from rainwater or cut this kind of V formation in trees and get the sap and stuff out. So let's say that we can figure out water relatively well, or if it's winter time, we can always melt snow. Although then it's going to be more difficult to move around.
Right.
But let's say water is relatively settled. We have like an initial batch, but we fix a sustainable source relatively easy. So let's say you can bring like a month's worth of food. So if you go out to an island, you're going to be safe from the zombies, assuming they can't swim or like walk on the bottom.
Sure.
But you will starve relatively quickly. So I think that's also one factor, like sustainability. I mean, surviving day one, you can probably hunker down in the basement or something like that, just survive the first few days. But how do you actually make it past that? What's your long-term plan?
The recurring theme that came up multiple times in our last recording was this is how you plan for where you will be. So while it's day 0, while nothing's happened yet, wash your hands, everyone. While we're focusing on that so much, almost to a meme extent, you do want to set up everything you're doing every single day to be successful in the future as well. So if you are okay at this day, how far out can you take these supplies? So even though we're talking about day 1, it's like, all right, with this day 1 information, how can you ensure it does last into the future? Being on an island with a very limited set of food. I don't know how much. I don't know how big the islands are out there. But let's say it's just good
sizes.
For a few people, and that there's many of them around. I think visibility terms are going to be fine. But what can you really hunt there? What can you really fish there? All of these things you're going to have to carry supplies for.
I mean, fishing would be the main source of food. Maybe like small game hunting if you have the equipment for it, but.
hoping that the fish haven't been infected and the water supplies are fine. And
Yes, yes. But let's assume
Yep.
the virus is only human based.
yes,
And that's pretty safe. Otherwise, you would
made
have
the
zombie
animal
fishes.
human
That's kind of
jump and
gross.
I watched an amazing film at the Vancouver International Film Festival, VIFF, and it was about a zombie infection virus that was only affecting white people in America
Oh,
in the
alright.
80s, and all of the native folk were surviving like nothing else because they get bitten and it wouldn't matter, so they could
Oh.
just fight all the regular humans that have gone all zombie. And and then being a good flick, I really enjoyed it. Blood Quantum, if anyone out there wants to see a
Blood
good
Quantum.
yeah, a
Sounds
good
like a
film.
typical cult movie.
It was surprisingly good. They had such a small budget, and I liked it much better than some of the bigger budget films. But they had some interesting principles in that they planned out for hunkering down in a barrack structure that they created. So they've blocked off the reserve that they already lived on. They walled it off, and then had like shipping containers and whatnot in there. So they very much created like a community aspect. The way you and I have spoken about this so far for day one is we've almost assumed that we'd be on our own. Would you feel that's fair?
Or at least a very small group.
So what would be realistic in terms of how many people you could get together right off the bat, and like what would be the value of that and like the drawbacks of having people around you?
I mean, the obvious perks are that you are a larger squad of people. You can fend off larger threats. You can get more work done. You can construct larger barricades or anything like that, really. You have more manpower and more security when it comes to just labor and physical force. The downside, one obvious downside is, of course, can you trust everyone? Will someone, sneak out food in the middle of the night? Will someone take everything and run off if they panic? But the other aspect, which is something that becomes very obvious in, for example, Don't Starve, the video game, is that you don't think about it, but just, the difference between one person or 2 or 3 people, the amount of food you need is insane. It grows so fast.
No matter what you do, you have to eat every single day. And the days go by so quickly when you're trying to survive.
Exactly. So think about it this way. If you're one person, maybe you can get away with, quote unquote, looting one abandoned house a day. That can, maybe you find some, canned beans or stuff like that. If you're 2 people, you're going to need to loot 2 houses a day. 3 people, 3 houses a day, and so on. And if you move in a group, that's going to be really slow. Unless you split up, but that's more dangerous. And then you're practically going alone anyway in all the danger zones. So the thing with the group is that you're a larger physical force. You're like a force to be reckoned with, but you need to spend so much more of the time ensuring that you have a food supply. And you need to carry so many more things with you. So maybe not everyone in the group will be as physically capable, which means that some other people have to carry more, other people less. And it becomes more vulnerable in the sustainability sense, definitely. And I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks, that I'm skeptical if it would work to be a large group. I would say, probably a handful of people will be about the right amount, because then you're a big enough group that you can get some good stuff done and you can be reasonably powerful, but you still don't need that much food to sustain yourself, and it's relatively easy to trust a handful of people. So at least that's the initial thing before you get settled down, or before, do the classic thing and go to the countryside and start a farming community or something like that.
There are
So
a lot of
what do
local
you
farms
think
and
about
things
it,
around
group
here,
size?
but I can't imagine. So even on like a normal day, without an incoming threat, I don't trust most of the people that live around here. Not that they're sort of antagonists in the story in which I would be a protagonist, but that mostly that everyone is the protagonist of their own story. So they're trying to survive for themselves, and whoever their closest members of their tribe may be, whether that be their kids, their partners, their parents. So while I think that my main priority would be to keep everyone alive, I can't assume that everyone would have the same ideals in mind. So a lot of people would be out there just trying to keep what's theirs and also keep themselves and their family alive at all costs. And that would be, as per your example, sneaking off in the middle of the night with supplies, because all of a sudden they have all the supplies that other people gathered. That would be people that run off, because if there's an incoming threat coming to a large group, then they themselves, an individual person, could probably slip away.
Yeah, or imagine if you're running lower and lower on food. For example, you have a couple of parents with a couple of kids realizing that, oh, we might run out of food in a week in this large group. Okay, we take all the food for ourselves and take off because they're going to die anyway, you know?
Exactly. So while they may be thinking they're triaging a situation, it does kind of doom everyone at once.
Yes.
So I can't imagine I have that many people around me that I can really trust. I would probably go the lone wolf way about it. Just pick up Human One and head on out to the trees.
Sad Milk Squad.
Sad Milk. What's up, guys? Here we are, Sad Milk, surviving the zombie apocalypse. Let's look at memes. We don't have the internet anymore because it's the zombie apocalypse.
But I printed a few homepages of Reddit, so let's go. I've drawn a few.
Okay, great. Thanks, Flinders. Flinders has drawn a few memes. I like that you mentioned Don't Starve. Definitely anyone who hasn't checked us out on Twitch, I know Click occasionally streams, I occasionally stream. We play games together. And we've been playing a lot of zombie-based games, and I think that's helped fuel our conversation. One of the ones we've been playing is Dying Light, where it's very much day one for him, but it might be like week number 2 for the game, I think, something like that.
Oh yeah, you played a long time with Salty.
That's true. Salty Reddit's pretty cool, dude. And it's very much a guy just running around pillaging things to try to support a large group. But even in that, there are a lot of people that go solo, and the people that are solo are just like,
Help! We need assistance!
and what's the likelihood that you'd probably help other people? Like, I think as much as I'd like to, I think it'd be pretty slim, as the chances are that it's a trap is pretty high, and the chances are that it'd be survivable for anyone is not very high.
Yeah,
so
and I think it's kind of that's like a greater system that would, how should I put it, adjust itself over time. Like, it's enough if you keep helping people, it's enough that you are caught in the trap once and you will never help anyone again, either because you stop trusting people or because you die. So people that are super helpful are probably rooted out quite fast, because it just has to be a small percentage of the surviving populace that are willing to exploit others for a lot of victims to fall for it. Because one group that sets up trap, maybe they trap 100 people, so that's 100 people that will never help anyone again, just because of one single group of people that decided to con people in the apocalypse. So
that's fair. I didn't think about it that way before. Huh.
Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of an evolution thing, a bit of Darwinism, but more regarding behavior. So in that sense, it's kind of like the more anarchy there is, so to say, the less there is to go around for everyone, because the likelihood that people steal from others instead of producing things on their own is rapidly increasing. So you fight over scraps, essentially. And I mean, apocalypse is like the super anarchy, I guess. And I think that will be very prevalent, especially when the stuff you're fighting for is very finite. Nobody produces ammunition anymore. Nobody produces food anymore, apart from maybe someone who happens to flee to a farm, I guess.
Nobody being the vast majority of people. There'll still be like some small farmers and whatnot that create their own shells or bullets or whatnot. But their supplies are going to be limited anyways. Like, you can only make so much gunpowder. You can only use so much brass.
Yeah.
Over time, stuff runs out. So that's fair.
Yes, it is.
So that's a good point. So nobody's making bullets. Per day one, what do you think you have on you right now that would be good as an anti-zombie weapon?
Oh, I do have a baseball bat. That's pretty good. Classic.
Classic. It's lightweight. But it's designed to be swung a whole bunch of times. If you have experience with it, that's pretty helpful.
Yes. I guess, baseball bat, knives. My family has quite a few hunting rifles that could be used. Okay. The only problem with hunting gear is that it makes a lot of noise.
It's very heavy too.
Yes, it's heavy. You need to carry ammunition, and you can only use it for as long as you have bullets. And most likely, the average person who has a gun at home, or it's hunting, or target practicing, or something like that, you probably don't have, a 10-year supply of ammunition just lying around. You probably, have maybe a couple of cartons, and that's about it. So guns, it's kind of, this luxury thing that you can use in the worst situations, kind of, or, threaten other humans with, for example, point a gun at someone if they're being threatening, or if you want to threat them. But as the sustainable weapon of choice, the thing you use to, take out the majority of zombies with, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's way too noisy. And it's also another thing, even though we haven't really considered if zombies react to noise or not, but humans still do. And
Yes.
I think apart from, the occasional horde mechanic, if that makes sense, I think humans are more dangerous in that situation than zombies, because humans are desperate, they're devious, they're smart, and they can use weapons. I mean, a desperate human, imagine you can just be traveling along the road in the apocalypse, no zombies around, you suddenly just get shot in the head by someone who's interested in your backpack. You'd never even see them, just poof, gone. A zombie can never do that. So,
and as you said, guns are a luxury. If people hear that you have a luxury, they're going to come right after you.
Exactly. So guns are like, it's a luxury survival article, but not sustainable.
Guns are fine if you want a literal target on your back. That's fine.
Yeah, that too.
I like the thought that, like, if you have a couple cartons, that's at least a few months worth of food if you're very careful. Worst case scenario, you have a horde, as we're saying, a horde mechanic come after you.
You mean for hunting and stuff like
won't
that?
Last long. Yeah,
shooting
for
wild
hunting,
animals.
you get a few rabbits, get a few deer. Fine, you're set for a little while. You can't rely on that forever, so it might be good to get like a quick amount of food right away, or save those for a little bit later on once your supplies run out. Cool, but in order to get out of town, you probably need something else. I like your idea of the baseball bat. Realistically, is that in a place that you could grab within, say, 10 seconds right now?
Yeah, pretty much. It's sitting in a closet, like about, it's kind of in the
it'll
other
take,
side.
let's
the
say
other end
day
of the
one, people
apartment.
trying to bang on your door. Probably take 10 seconds for someone to get through if they're really trying hard. So depending on what your door is made of and whatnot, I assume that either there's a couple people banging on my door, be able to push it in right off of the frame. But if you have something within 10 seconds of you, you should be okay. But most people are like,
oh yeah, well my uncle has like all of the guns, so all I need to do is like go to my uncle's.
It's like,
he lives 3 hours away by car. It's like, yep, there you go, pal.
Exactly. Like there's a reason why he has that many guns. He's way out in the middle of nowhere. It's not realistic to plan around what other people have. So it is really important to, like we said in the last one, to build on what you already have at hand.
Yes. The important thing to consider, especially that with the uncle, it's that if that kind of situation happens, consider that 90% of your mobility will be gone instantly, because all the local traffic, all buses, all subways will just stop. All roads will be blocked. Sidewalks are dangerous because you have zombies and you have desperate humans running around trying to either get out of town or steal things, or, maybe they just, screw it, the world is over. I'm just going to have fun and mess around until I get put down. So
there's going to be the chaotic element for sure.
Yeah, so please, pretty much walking on foot or, the occasional boat ride, perhaps. That's like the main means of travel. Or, I mean, if you get out of town, on the long desert roads, kind of, like in the U.S., I guess you could potentially use a car. But then again, gasoline is also an issue. But mobility is very limited. So you can assume that for day one, you will pretty much have to use what you have at home, basically, or at least around the same block at most, depending on how aggressive the outbreak actually is. So
your example of only 1% survivability over here in Canada would be what have we got, like 37.5 people, so it'll probably be 375,000 people left. That's a lot of humans to contend with. That is a huge number. And then assuming that we've got like the almost 37 million zombies running around. That's
well, you can imagine something like this. If 99% get infected and 1% survives the infection, they're immune, or they don't happen to get infected during the incubation period or something like that, whatever the case. The first week I think something like 80% of that 1% will die off because they will either get attacked, they're not prepared, so they simply starve within a week. They get into, big fights with other people, and, only one comes out alive if people are desperate enough. This got really dark really fast, but but I think that's also important to consider. Like the survivors of the initial outbreak, they will also dwindle incredibly fast the first week, incredibly fast. So
primarily because people have these short-sighted plans of, I just need to get away, or I need to get to somewhere. And it's the fastest way to go is to get stuck in one of those traffic jams, get stuck on the tram, a train over here. That's
or
the
just imagine
train. And even on good days, it shuts down, and that's thousands of people that can't get to work. So it's very chaotic on a good day.
Mobility is limited, and just imagine like someone who actually makes it out of town, runs out into the woods, and not everyone in modern society, very far from it, me probably included, are not prepared to survive out in the wilds sustainably without unlimited supply. They will probably, starve to death, freeze to death, get attacked by wild animals, what have you. You don't survive for that long out in the wild if you're not very skilled at what you do. And in modern society, that's a very small percentage of people. So the first few weeks, those survivor numbers, they're going to dwindle really fast. And it's going to probably come down to, 1% of that 1% that survives sustainably. The ones that actually know what they're doing and have the aptitude for it and knows what needs to be done, or they have, perhaps military or wildlife training or something like that gives them an edge. But yeah, I think the regular people, regular office workers like you and me. Well, fam, oof.
Well, and we're probably anyone with survivability training has probably got a good shot. I know you're out in the wilderness fairly often. But I don't think
but it's not
camping.
It's not the same thing
really
though.
Counts,
it's kind of like exactly. That's the thing. Like I would consider myself, a nature person. I work in the woods. I know how to handle power tools, axes. I have a big summer house with a family that I go to quite a lot. But that's very different from trying to survive all by yourself out in the middle of the woods. It's a very different scenario. One is like being a handyman, and one is like being a survivalist. It's a very big difference.
I had a break between jobs a while ago, quite a few years ago, and I spent a couple weeks in the woods just kind of hanging out. I did run out of food after a little while, but there's a lot of plants you can eat. You can do fishing and stuff, so I was fine for a time. Oh, yeah. I feel like in a good scenario, like it's summertime, there's a lot of food available to me and around me. I feel like I'd be okay for a time. But that's not forever. And I didn't pick up and have to move my camp. I didn't have to find another area. I didn't have to compete with anyone because I was the only one interested in being a dumb person and hunt for my own food at the time. Forage, I guess would be more accurate. It was fun. It gave me a good experience. But like you said, how often are we gaining that experience? How often are we brushing up on those skills? Not that often. Not that often. We're not employed presently as an individual in the military who can then go out and survive everything.
Of course.
Regardless of previous experience, you need to brush up on that so regularly.
Yeah. And also considering the fact that, a decent amount of people could probably survive, a week out in the woods camping with no actual food supplies. But it's also important to consider that what you brought with you is not guaranteed that you can get a hold of in this situation, because you probably went to a supermarket, bought a nice tent. You probably have a nice fishing equipment pretty nearby. You could buy the stuff that you were missing, plan ahead quite a bit. You won't be able to do that. How many people have a proper tent just lying around at home that you can just put on your shoulder and run out into the woods right now? It's not that many, fam. Oh, look at you. Well, I'm screwed.
I have all the supplies on hand right now. I planned for this. I have about a month's worth of water and maybe a month and a half or 2 months worth of food. And
gosh darn.
Well, it's a pretty big risk where I am. There's only 2 roads out of here. If there's an earthquake, this is just no zombies. If there's an earthquake that cuts off those 2 roads, it could be months or at least many weeks until we have proper supply again to the local grocery stores. Yeah. So it would be a good idea to make sure we're not being completely reliant on the government shipping in a bunch of food on time. because it
Yeah,
has
like
to go
dropping
out
in by
across
helicopters.
millions of people. So exactly, yeah, helicopters. Those are going to get overrun, and that's on a good
Yes.
day without zombies.
Yeah, on a bad day
So I
without
have-
zombies, they won't even be in helicopters.
So I have a fair amount of supplies there, but so I have my day 1 planned out. Definitely day 0. Wash your dang hands. I have day 1 planned out.
That's a
where
very
I just
good
have a lot of
strat.
stuff on hand. And
You know,
I
it's
guess
kind
that's
of this way. You know, I remember we talked about in the previous episode. You know, with the false correlations, like in the Bible, they said, "Hey, wash your hands, or God will think you're dirty and punish you." But it's actually because you have a lot of germs and get sick. We're kind of making the same correlation here, like wash your hands so you don't become a zombie. But in reality, it's kind of just like, hey, don't catch the cold, or, you know, the coronavirus. So yeah, we're forming a new religion, fam.
I want to call you out a little bit on something just while we have a moment.
Shoot, yo, shoot.
You only just started following me on Instagram.
Yes, I was scrolling through like my through people I had interacted with,
Yeah.
and I realized, like, wait a second, I never followed one topic, because I'm not super active on Instagram. You know, I post a picture once every month or something. I rarely even interact with stuff, and the only thing I really do is like sometimes reply to DM or like someone's fan art they tagged me in. So I just realized, like, oh, I'm not following. I think I'm not like only following you and Illuminati on Instagram. I think I haven't even bothered looked up the rest because I don't really use the platform.
Yeah, I'm following 0 people, so I'm mostly having fun with it. But I noticed that
and you're
someone
trying to
had
guilt trip me. Wow, wow, look at you. Wow.
I
Wow,
noticed
see
that.
how it is.
Hey, I noticed that someone had submitted some fan art for the Ship podcast that they're making at school, and I thought that was pretty cool. So
Oh,
I
that's
saw
so
that ping
nice.
up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check that out." And then I realized, "Oh, I've got a new notification from 4 hours ago." Oh,
Holy.
it's the click.
Okay. I'm gonna send you a screenshot of a fan art that I saw on Instagram. It's
Okay.
really, it's cursed as usual, but it's really I mean, wow, they're actually really good at
okay.
drawing. Look at that.
Oh, it's loading up. Let me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
click on this because that's. I guess you can edit this in.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm gonna try to edit this in. Yeah.
the
Do
caption.
you like it?
The caption alone.
Oh my God! Get the boat now. No. Let's
Now,
see.
here's the thing. You're gosh, what is that called? Because that's also charge your phone. But that what is that called? Because it's not a furry. That's a
No, it's something in between. I'm not sure.
I can't remember what the name of it is, but I definitely got called out on it a few times in previous videos where I show someone with cat ears, cat teeth, cat paws, but not like the full fursuit and things. And people are saying, well, that's not a furry, that's a something.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, yeah. So these Scooby-Doo enthusiasts have definitely drawn you something very imaginative. It's
Yes.
I like
Yes.
that. I like
It's
that.
a very, very good piece of fan art, to be honest. It's so cursed, but that's some proper skills. I mean, I love the hair. Have you seen the hair? How detailed
Yeah,
and
it's so
good that is?
wavy. I love the difference between the light and the dark, how they've used that to detail things out. That's really cool.
So good. Oh yeah, the ship. I saw that too. It's so good. They put our podcast on the background on their school computers or something like
Yes.
that. That's so good.
That's great. And they haven't noticed. That's perfect. It's the background not just on the computer but in the web browser.
Oh, it's on.
So when people go to use Google, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is
Search
Google.
for
I guess this is
this.
how Google's doing it. What is the Ship podcast? And then,
It must be
hey,
good.
it's 2 dudes. It's 2 YouTubers.
Google is even sponsoring it now. Look at that.
Oh my God. Hey, Google, can we just get a shout out? That'd be great.
Like on the homepage for just a couple of days, you know, fam. We'll pay you $20.
I do get a few people that reach out sometimes. They're like, hey, can I get a shout out? It's like, but
Yeah.
why?
Oh, I had a sponsorship offer pretty recently. That's
I still
I
haven't
think-
received one. What the heck?
look at you. Well, you don't need to be jealous because it's absolute trash.
Oh no. Oh
I think
no.
I shared it in the Sad Milk group, but
Who are
it's
we
from-
burning bridges with now? Click. What's going
It's
on?
I'm not going to mention any names, but it's basically a knockoff AirPods company. There are plenty of
Oh,
those, and
okay,
some of them are even good. You know, some of them are actually
Yeah.
good. I don't
Like
know
our
about these
today's sponsor, Raycon.
Yeah. So these ones are like, first off, they use emojis in the title and in the business offer email. That's kind of a bit.
no.
Oof. And they're offering $1 per 1,000 views. That's it.
That's
they're not even offering to send me a free pair to so I even know what I'm, advertising. I'm just gonna toss something out there, hope the product is good for a very small amount. Like that's not even close to what Google Ads get you, and then you don't even have to sell your soul for it. So I just replied like, hey, increase it by this much and also send me a free pair so I actually know that I'm promoting something good to my followers, because I'm not just going to toss out something there. Even if they were actually paying a reasonable amount, I would not promote it unless I actually got to try the product myself.
If the product is really good, I could probably look past some bad names and a name with an emoji in it. I feel like they're trying to that sounds like some pretty boomer stuff to do. Is to try to capture a really young audience by being like, "Well, kids love emojis, so if we just include an emoji in the business name, we'll be fine."
It's a flame emoji in the title.
So lit.
Okay. Okay. But I think like the bare minimum is exactly what you said. You need to send me your product so that I can review it myself. And then pros or cons, I can sell it. But them not sending you it makes me think like they want you to speak about it before seeing it, so their product is bad.
Yeah.
Especially if they can only afford $1 per 1,000 views. What?
That is so low.
What possible advertising is that?
Oh, imagine that on a... Yeah, I mean... $1 per 1,000, that is nothing, and that's even before taxes and everything. I don't. It's like even on a big video, it wouldn't amount to anything.
I'd rather have a demonetized video than get paid $1 per 1,000 views.
yes, it's so low. You would never be able to make a living off of YouTube if that was what you made per view. It's
not
so
unless you had
low.
like 1 million views, then maybe. But that's what, like $1,000.
Even 1 million views, $1,000 before tax for 1 million views.
That's true.
That's
true.
Nothing. That is such cheap marketing. For reference, by the way, something like...
back to work.
Oh, you have to go back to work?
No, if that happened, if I was being paid $1 per 1,000, I would not have enough to survive.
For reference, I would say this is more my subjective opinion, but if a sponsor wants to pay you as a YouTuber or creator for a personal endorsement of their product, I would say anything below 10 is really low. Definitely. Because it's not only the fact that it's an advertisement you personally endorse. So it's something you associate your own brand with. And that risk alone is worth a pretty decent amount of money if you're just talking business.
It's not just money coming in the door. It's money for like security. So it's not just that we think we're worth a lot of money. It's that the potential backlash, if a product goes bad, if it's not a good endorsement, if there's some shady business practices we didn't know about, that could really hurt the brand in the future. So getting more money up front helps ensure for security on the back end.
It's risk and reward. That's basically it. And now you're asking me to promote a shady product, so it's a high risk for me that a bunch of my fans will be disappointed and angry. And you barely pay me for it. Like, why would I do this? Why would I ever do this?
Yes.
There's no upsides. I don't even get a free pair. Like, heck, the money I would make off of that sponsorship, even on a decent video,
wouldn't even buy a pair.
No, I wouldn't even be able to buy a pair with it. It's like, what? I promote a product to like 200,000 people, and I can't even afford one of the products.
How much were their headphones, by the way?
The headphones, I haven't checked, to be honest, but I think it's something like, $100, probably something like that. Let's see. Do I have sent by? They don't even have a link in this email. It's so bad.
What I would love to do is get like a zombie supply sponsorship.
Oh, that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
We could talk about them on the podcast and like how survivable their equipment would be. And
here we go.
I'd be super into that.
On Instagram, they have one post. And it seems to be a promotional video for the pods. They have 10 likes on it. Look at that. Wow.
Oh. Well, maybe they're fresh and they're starting out. Like I don't want to burn a new company. I don't want to burn someone for just trying, because this person had the confidence to write an email to someone who's fairly prolific on the platform. You have quite a few subscribers now. And they're like, "Hey, I don't know if this will work, but here's my offering. What do you think?" Like if it's all in good-natured business practice, I want to support that, but like you said, there's so much risk, and if they can't even send you the product, then I only get shady vibes from this.
And I mean the email itself, they actually sent 2 emails that look the same to me, like a couple of weeks apart. So I think they pretty much copy paste the same email to X number of creators and hope that someone will say yes. And that's, yeah. I mean, of course they can do that. They can check, with others, but I won't be too psyched if you haven't reached out to me personally, if that makes sense. Because I pick sponsors personally. Like, hey, this is a product that I have tried myself, something that I can personally endorse. It's a tight-knit business agreement. And if they just, toss it out there, it's like, I'm not going to, unless you like think that my channel is specifically good or you want to work with specifically me, especially for that amount of money, nah, fam, no. I'm just another name on a spam list, essentially.
I got another notification from Instagram. That same individual that posted the image, I had liked it, and they added a new thing to their story saying they're freaking out and dying because we liked their post. I think that's so sweet. That's so nice.
That's so cute. Aww.
I'm not on Instagram that often, fam. If you try to message me, I will not get back to you because I honestly don't check it. I get so many on there. Well, that's not true. I do read through every single message I get, but it's not a thing that I can respond to, unfortunately.
Yes.
I try to keep the spaces I do respond to a minimum. That way I'm not spending so much time switching between different inboxes and things trying to keep up with people. I still keep up with people on Twitter. I at least do that. That's it's at least somewhat more limited. But as we build up our internet following on Twitter and Instagram, maybe those will be places we can become influencers on.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just post bikini butt pictures and sponsor energy drinks. That's my future career path, man.
You hold up a knife to it in your bikini bottom picture, and you're like, with this zombie survival knife.
You can survive for so long with this knife. You can hunt your food. You can stab your neighbors. Oh, heck.
You have quite a few survivable skills or survivability skills on hand. You
practice in voice. I scare people away.
You practice in the art of pushing people.
Yes, I've done the karates for many years.
The karates. What I love is there's no karate chop. Like there's an axe chop with a kick, but there's no like, hey, with it.
No,
with
that doesn't
blade
exist.
Of your hand.
It's not a thing. It's not a thing. Why would you do that? You break your fingers off. It's ridiculous.
I think it was like a thing in the 80s in movies and stuff where they're like, all right, if we do this thing to someone's neck, they'll just pass out instantly. It's like the one-hit kill. But it's not a real thing.
No, it's not. And I mean, if you think about it, everything in karate is pretty much kicks or knuckles or sometimes an elbow. That's kind of, the hard places. If you just compare, right now, take your hand as a fist and feel like how hard your knuckles are, especially if you know how to flex your wrist and stuff, you can punch through a lot of things with that if you actually work with it. Now, extend your hand and feel how soft and brittle the side of your hand is. Why would you ever punch something with that when you have the other option? It's like instead of using your elbow, you like punch something with your biceps. It would be like the same thing.
God, that's so gross.
Yeah.
Oh, that felt squishy in my mind, and I didn't even touch my arm. Like
there you
I
go.
work out, and that still felt awkward to me. That's by the way, I'm uploading our Fanfic Friday to my second channel, and I'm not going to announce it or anything. Maybe we can talk about it in the future, but that was a long session that we did. Do you think we'll do Fanfic Fridays again?
That would be kind of fun. There was the one we recorded on stream, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. I mean, I'm down. It would be fun because there are starting to pop out some fanfics, and it's always a blast to record them. I mean, I've already recorded a few with you on stream. I've recorded 2 with Oz, and Illuminati was also part of one of them. And someone mentioned that there was a fanfic with me and Illuminati only somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. But that would be fun for a collab as well. It's so cursed. The only thing with fanfics, though, that's like a downside is that they need to be steamy enough so they're cringy enough to make good content with, but they can't be steamy to the point that YouTube kind of deletes you for it.
Yeah, we have, even when we were reading those, we had to use a lot of replacement words, and it was very much like, oh yeah, girl, I'm gonna bring you home, and then we can lay down and read the Bible, just like Be very
I
careful
will
about
take
that.
off your pantaloons and
Pray to Jesus Christ.
And even that might be a bit far.
yeah. It's like one of the
So-
old movies, when the naughty scenes happen and the camera just pans, towards the curtains that are gently waving in the wind. It's kind of one of those things.
So in your pushy push classes, the karates,
Karates.
you would have learned how to use a bow staff, right?
No, I actually didn't do that. It was a different style.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we mainly did we did a bit of grabs, but other than that, it was punching kicks.
Oh.
So it's not, the punchy closer thing karate, like not like boxing really, but that kind of deal.
Very much self-defense. Very much like there's a person, I want them to go away. Not so much
Exactly.
like I'm going to have a dance competition with my hands as well.
No, not really. It's more like the fact that hey, someone's been threatening. How do I do the hurdies on them real quick?
Hurdies and escape. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Goodness.
But yeah, karate
that pretty much-
actually pays off a lot. Someone mentioned it. I can't remember who it was, but it's actually a psychological thing that if you know how to defend yourself and if you know how to fight, it's less likely that you have to fight if you don't push for it, of course. Because I can bring up an example. I had back in university, I was often responsible for parties and that kind of stuff when I was the most invested in the student activities. And I remember one evening, one of my friends, who was a lady, she was a bit, not harassed, but, she was bothered by a couple of male attendees. Nothing super serious. But they were like following her around and stuff. I think they were just joking, but they were a bit drunk and just took it too far and made people uncomfortable.
Right.
But they were following her around, and she like brought him up to me and said like, "Hey, this is Marcus. He does martial arts." And they come up to me, semi-joking, like, "Oh, so you do martial arts?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I just looked them straight in the eye and like, "Oh crap." And they instantly backed down super awkwardly and just kind of scurried away. So I didn't have to do anything, but because I just knew that, hey, these are like small kind of nerdy dudes. They're not really threatening in any way. So I can just kind of stand here and watch them, be scared.
And that's when they have like literally nothing at stake.
Yes.
One of the downsides
Yes.
with zombies is you can't scare them off. They don't
No,
care.
no. If they're
But one of
desperate,
the
it's like
advantages-
it's life or death. So
Yeah.
they will rather take their chance with jumping you than walking away. But that's
And
also
even
the
with
thing.
survivors, it's like, they just want all your stuff. They want your supplies.
Yes.
This might be their last chance to survive. They have to try. They
Yeah,
have to
because
get your
imagine,
stuff.
imagine those two guys. If it had been life or death, they would probably have jumped me, But at this scenario, they had nothing to gain, but they had much more to lose if they actually pushed the confrontation. So then they instantly
Exactly.
backed off. And sometimes guys don't back off because it's kind of a sense of pride involved with it. The whole hierarchy, caveman kind of deal. But most of the time, very few people push for an actual fight unless you're in a bad neighborhood. But in the normal context.
Yeah. Gosh darn zombies. Every neighborhood's going to be a bad neighborhood, man.
Yeah, they will, and not to mention the zombies. But yeah, that's a pretty good lesson from this, actually. Confrontations, the more people have to lose, the less likely they are to be very aggressive. And that goes for everything in life, really.
Yeah. I like that. I like that as like a closing message is learn how to defend yourself because you'll less need to, especially if everyone can come to a place of mutual respect. There won't be so much fighting. Is recognizing when you're in a higher risk situation, when the other person has more to gain than they would lose if they confronted you.
Yeah.
And then also wash your hands. Wash your hands, everyone. Don't become zombies. Wash your gosh darn hands.
Washy.
You go to the bathroom and use your phone in the bathroom and you wash your hands, but you're still touching your phone. That means you haven't washed your hands. Wash your phone.
Yeah, just put your hands down the toilet and flush. Get those hands clean. So
How long have we been recording for?
quite a long time, I think. It's probably almost an hour now.
Probably about an hour. That's usually about the length that we do.
That's a good episode. And I think we had a lot of good messages in this one. It was a good dynamic.
It was. You can go camping, but be realistic. You can have supplies, but be realistic. You can have weapons, but be realistic. And then also wash your hands.
Yes.
I know I'm harping
And also
on that a
people
lot,
will want
but,
to fight you.
with my experience in healthcare and whatnot for the years that I was doing that, it's just so many people don't wash their hands and then they get infected with different things and they're like, oh, how did this happen? Or worst case, they just like touch something and then infect someone else with it and they're like, oh, how did that person get it? They've never touched that person. It's just like, you know,
Yay.
like Typhoid
are-
Mary.
yeah.
Do you know much about Typhoid Mary?
Not really, no.
She had the pooping disease, which if anyone knows what's up, they know that's very funny. And so she was a carrier, but she didn't get sick with the symptoms herself. So she worked as a housekeeper or cook. She worked as a cook in different houses.
Oh, no.
And then the family would get sick and die, and she'd move on to the next family and cook for them. And then the family gets sick and die because she wasn't washing her hands.
Oh, my
She was
God.
touching the poopy poops and then not washing her hands.
Oh,
And that stuff still happens today. But, you know, the lessons of the past, unless you know them, you can't learn from them. So, people,
yeah, that's true.
please.
Don't do the poopy whoopies when you cook. So that's a good ending note for this episode. So thank
subscribe, by the way.
Yes,
subscribe to the Ship
subscribe.
Podcast and share
Do
this with your
that.
friends and set this
Do it.
as the background to all Google Chrome and public places because that way
Indeed.
people will find us.
It spreads the good message of the channel. We would share it with our friends too if we had any. So there's that.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. I don't have any friends that listen to our podcast, to be honest. Oh, Salty
So-
does. Salty jumps. in a
Salty
bunch.
does. Yes,
Yeah.
he's epic. Hello, Salty.
Hey, Salty, if you made it
Hello.
to the end. Okay, click ready for your outro.
Yes. So, everyone, beautiful and smelling nicely watching at home, I do hope you enjoyed this episode, and me and Topicky Wapicky will see you in the next one. Stay amazing and keep your pants on in public because of those ridiculous social norms. Mwah.
Is that the new thing now?